This YCN segment is brought to you by Bubba's Bar and Grill on Lake Sunapee in Newberry Harbor.
Welcome back, YCN Sports Talk. Jeremy Stout, Rob Taylor in studio, and we continue with the Red Sox. And let's move back, Rob, before we go back to the end of the season. Let's go to the trade deadline. And Dave Dombrowski, the general manager, didn't make any trades for relief pitcher. He did get Eovaldi to shore up the starting lineup, the starting rotation. He got Pierce. We know about that, but no moves to the bullpen. And he was kind of grilled for that, including myself, where everyone said this bullpen isn't going to be able to handle it. Now, with different results, they ultimately get the best result. The bullpen was spectacular. We know Kimbrel had his struggles, but guys like Joe Kelly, Hembree, Barnes, everybody who came out of that bullpen pitched great. So do we say, okay, Dombrowski, you were right all along?
I think you have to. I mean, the results are really the proof in the pudding. So, if there's one thing about Dombrowski that really impressed me over the course of the last maybe a couple seasons, is he decides on somebody that he wants, and he really works it so hard to go get it. And if it's sort of on the edge, he's not gonna fall over himself to make that acquisition. But in the case of players like JD and so forth, where he wanted those guys, he really stuck to his guns and made it happen. And difference makers up and down the roster. Ultimately, it was very impressive, I thought, the way that Cora managed the bullpen and even the starters, and actually using them as role players in key situations and key matchups. I mean, it really was almost bullpen by committee,
right?
Especially in that huge game where they played for basically all night long.
Yeah, right.
Which was a tough loss, but it was a classic, instant classic. So I had some good takeaways from it, and it was just fun, the fact that almost everybody was in that game that they had on their roster.
Yeah.
So,
but you mentioned Cora, and he did manage. It seemed like at the beginning of the playoffs, he was pushing every right button. You start Nunez or pinch hitting Nunez for Devers, or he's bringing this guy, and everything he did worked out well. Then he kind of stumbled in that 18-inning game. Some people said, we maybe put Kinsler in. They shouldn't have done that. And then the next night when Erod gave up the big home run to Puig, obviously the Red Sox came back and won the game. But you speak about Cora, and he's a great guy, friendly, loves the team, loves the city. What type of career do you think he could have with the Red Sox? Do you think it's like a Francona-esque where he's really relates to the players 7 to 10 years and maybe win a couple championships?
Yeah, that's my heart of hearts is that Alex Cora is going to be around for quite some time. It doesn't hurt when it's your first year out of the gate to win the championship and have the season that he had. Nobody's ever going to doubt him, I think, from here going forward. And he really just showed himself to be basically, just a classy guy, up and down. You watch his post-game press conference, he says all the right things. The players clearly, every time they'd be interviewed during the World Series, were saying all the right things. Sometimes it was their night, sometimes it wasn't. It was basically whatever AC asked them to do, they were going to do it. And so that kind of commitment and buy-in from the players is just, that's, I think, a big reason for their success this year. And of course, I think he's got the full and uninterrupted support of ownership and management. So.
And the fans, obviously, when you win a World Series in your first year. I know it's been done before. It's funny, actually, because Francona won in his first year and Farrell did as well. So it's something about you become a manager in Boston, you win a World Series like that.
The old adage is you'll never have to buy a drink in Boston again.
Right. So now when you compare them, we mentioned those teams. 2004, an unbelievable story. 2007, a lot of talent. 2013, not a lot of talent, but some pieces that worked. And now you got this team that has a loads of talent. Obviously, the wins to put up 108. The talent to put up 108 wins. Where do you rank them? Best teams, best story. What do you say?
I think it's probably they are the best team, I think, in Red Sox history. But for me, it'll always come back to that 2004 season where we'd been through the 86 years of drought. And by the way, it was 100 years ago this year that they won that championship. So, that will always, for me, be the sort of the best season in terms of the way that it impacted me personally, and I think Red Sox Nation as a whole. But I think there's no arguing that this team is probably, top to bottom, the deepest talent, and really just dominant all season long, the way that they played. Pitching squads that are just, elite, and I mean, it's a year for the ages. Really.
Yeah, it really is. And before we hit the break, just quickly, do you think they re-sign Eovaldi? We'll just go with him. There's a lot of free agents, and do you think they should be favorites for next year?
I think absolutely they're favorites. I saw somewhere it was 6-1 odds for them, and then Yankees and Astros
are there,
maybe 7-1. So they're definitely the favorites. I'm hoping they'll re-sign some of those key guys, including Steve Pearce, to come back again for us. I mean, we don't want to bust up anything that we've got going here. So.
And it seemed like it worked really well. Like Pearce doesn't need to play every day. Eovaldi can settle in as that 4th or 5th starter. So it should be interesting. Obviously, the offseason begins. The parade was today. A lot of people down in Boston. Beautiful weather. So we'll see what happens in the coming months and weeks of this offseason. But we've got more to talk about in season. That's the Patriots. They get a win on the road, and they have a big game Sunday night hosting the Packers. So we'll talk about that with Rob Taylor, Executive Director of the Lebanon Area Chamber of Commerce. Thanks for watching YCN Sports Talk. We'll be right back.